there's like the running jokes of, all these jobs, even entry level, are looking for experience. How am I supposed to get experience if I don't already have experience? So, what are your thoughts on overcoming the difficulties of experience, even in realms like investing without the initial capital, or entrepreneurship or investing?
That's a, of course, you ended with a really good question as well. So I would put them in two buckets. You have your large corporations, which people more they have these hiring managers, they have this hiring process, and they're saying, hey, these are the specs of the person I want to hire. And usually, as sometimes they have quote unquote ridiculous demands in terms of, hey, I just got out of college. How do you expect a person out of college to have this experience? Then you have your small and medium sized business enterprises who, I don't want to say the most part, many of them, they're just mimicking what the large businesses do, right? So it's kind of like they're copying that. I see this job post, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to tailor it to, I'm going to say, hey, do this. This is what I see the big boys doing. So I want to mimic that and do that for myself. I would suggest anybody wanting to get experience, this is where it's how much are you willing to bet on yourself? Two major ways to do it. One is start doing a project on your own. One of the things is when you're hiring or is somebody already doing the work in this field? Is somebody doing this on their free time? Can I know they're dedicated to this? So if you start doing a project and you're building out, and whether you're testing the market or you're giving out for free, whatever you're doing, product, service, etc., you're doing some piece of the job, I'm seeing, hey, you have a portfolio in this. Even though you may not have traditional work experience, I see that you're actually doing this without pay. So that must mean you have a great love or desire to do this type of work instead of everybody who's saying they love it, right? So you're standing out that way. The second thing I think many people don't think about enough is go intern or work for free at a startup. Whether ask for commission, maybe they just raising. Go for an early stage startup and say, hey, I can come work here for a while. I want to gain these types of experience. You're doing something that I kind of think is useful. If it works, I'll stay with your company. If not, can you write me a reference to this other company? A startup or a nonprofit, right? Those two things that you can do, and then you can gain that experience by essentially volunteering. I like startups more than nonprofits in that realm, just because startups, they have this pressure where they're trying to, nonprofits have it too, but if you get the right startup, they'll be willing to almost let you do anything, right? As long as it's moving the business forward. And it's so you can really get a ton of experience with which you couldn't receive as a SME, small, medium-sized enterprise, or at a large company. So those are ways I would say to gain that experience and break into the market. So if you're looking, you said VCs and raising in money, even if you're looking from an investor perspective, investors, whether it's private equity or venture capital, they also want to have operators on their team. An operator can analyze things differently than somebody who just read it in a book or somebody who invested. They can say, nope, it doesn't really work that, regardless of what the papers say, that's not how this works. So operators can do that, and they can communicate and connect with entrepreneurs better than non-operators in many instances.
Wow, mic drop on the last question, man. That's fantastic. I really appreciate that advice. It was the one thing that you said that like rung in my head like a bell was how much are you willing to bet on yourself? And like if you really just sit there with that question, I live by the philosophy that time is your most valuable asset. Money comes and goes. So I think, doing what you're saying and volunteering and getting those experiences that you're looking for, and there always is somebody who is trying to give you that experience. I think that's a really powerful thing. So I appreciate you saying, how much are you willing to bet on yourself? It just made me think, outside the realm of financials, like what else do I have to give? And time is probably the most valuable thing. So
thank you for saying that. I also want to say you're young. I'm relatively young too, but you're still young. I think there's a misconception that you're supposed to have it all figured out now. That's a big misconception and pressure that's being put on a lot of people your age and around your age. That's false, right? That is so. If you look at the data, actually, people who run the best, they usually start in their 40s. So if we're going to look at data, that's what happens. Rather, I guess the Mark Zuckerbergs, the younger entrepreneurs who start, they've been posted so much, we think that's the norm. They're the exception. So I'm not saying you can't succeed at this, but you kind of need that background of information, that expertise to help you do this, that reputation, that network, those resources, and then it builds up. Like look down, if you go on a plane, if you look at first class or business class, you're mostly seeing older people, 50s and 60s, who are flying there. It's rarer that you see a young person. So I think we have a skewed image of who really has money and when they get money or when people become successful. And that's forcing you to put pressure on yourself rather than realize maybe I'm in the process and every day going out and doing your best to get better.
Yeah, that's incredible advice.